I was 17, so I was very young. My parents weren't wildly ecstatic. I said, if I can't invite this man to my home, then I suppose I'd better go and find another home. So I moved out.
I left school on a Friday when I was 14 in 1941. We were all poor. That was the thing. Nobody was richer. I didn't know many black women. They came later on, many with their children.
My ma was raised by her grandmother, an Irish woman in Scotty Road, Liverpool. My mummy was a war bride. She was born in New South Wales in Australia, where you could be put in jail for fraternising with coloured people. My mum is a formidable Manchester woman. She's got long hair down her back, dark, like a brunette. But she could never do my bloody hair.
My mother was a spiteful old bitch. I was my mother's first child to go to grammar school. I never met any black people before then.
My mother was half Spanish, half Irish. She had long black hair. She would tell me stories how she got spatter.
My mum, my real mother, she was from America. She was tall, slim, blonde, and always well dressed. Mum grew up during the war in Austria. Her school wanted her to go to university.
I went to a fee-paying girls' school. I was from Bradford in Manchester near the gasworks. He was from here in Hume. He didn't have any black friends.
Mum and Dad met at the Ritz Ballroom. They got married at Gretna Green. I don't think my grandma ever spoke to my mum after she met up with my dad. I don't even remember her name. Dad never walked Mum home when they were courting. It was too dangerous. My mother is incredibly brave. She was ostracised and put down. I don't think she had any close friends.
Was I blinded by love? Well, of course, yeah. But I wasn't that blinded that I didn't see his bad points. He was a charmer. He could charm anybody. He said he fancied me because I had big boobs and a car. He said, you marry me now or you don't marry me at all.
He went to kiss me. And I fell into the teachers. And everybody couldn't stop laughing. It did bother my mum and my dad. He was a fire eater with feathers on his costume. He did his shows in the Reno Club in Moss Side. He wouldn't marry me for a long time. We were courting for almost 2 years before we got married.
My parents always said they didn't have to get married. Mum was younger than Dad by about 35 years.
I used to hear a lot of crying and screaming. There was a lot of violence, a lot of verbal abuse.
Now, I never went out drinking.
We never went to the city centre. We stayed around Hume and Moss Side.
Me and my mates went to the Nile. And there wasn't a door on the toilet, just a curtain and no light. So when you were having a pee, somebody had to stand in front.
Oh, we went in the Reno one night and the ink spots came in.
I don't want to set the world on fire.
My mother was always singing and she loved to dance. Nobody could beat my mum for her shoes that she bought from Derby's and always wore with American tan tights.
My mum was from a very working class family. My dad was very proud, hardworking, family man, strong character, and more educated.
That woman had many boyfriends, black ones and white ones.
When I met him, I thought I just couldn't let him go. My mother also thought he was wonderful. But as soon as the booze took hold, he turned into a completely different person. He looked just like Errol Brown from Hot Chocolate and was determined that he was going to marry me. I was 17, so I was very young, which did bother my parents. He won the polls once. Meanwhile, me and the kids were living poor because he never shared anything with us. The money didn't last long. He tried to be a bossy husband. He kept saying, well, you're at home with the kids not doing anything.
Friends said, you've got to think about the children. I thought, well, cool.
The nurse was shocked to see the baby was black.
We bounced me and my sisters in and out of care homes. Once, twice, 3, 4 times. I lost count.
We came home from work one day, and this National Front leaflet was on the floor. It had pictures of black children and some rubbishy writing. They must have put it through our door on purpose. I just threw it in the bin. I was 31, 32, with 2 young children.
And I remember a woman asked me, are you a childminder? I said, no, she's all mine.
I haven't got a dirty face. I'm Mummy's lovely baby.
She could have had me adopted, but she kept me. She could have easily had a backstreet abortion, easily.
Racial identity is not something we spoke about in my house. It wasn't different enough, really, I don't think, to merit discussion, really.
I experienced racism some way or other, but I never absorbed it.
I got called a blackbird. I used to think, well, they are beautiful birds.
Oh, I've heard them all. Blackie, Sambo,
Nignog,
Chalk Eyes, Gollywog.
black bastard, nigger.
Nigger. Nigger.
My mum always stuck up for me whenever anybody looks at me sideways. Like, when I was about 18, I remember she pulled up my clothes and she said,
Look, she has got clean knickers on.
when she stuck up for me like that, I used to think, there's my mum, fighting my corner.
You see him? That's my fucking boy. You poke him one more time, Nate, I will kill you. I will kill you.
I know why you don't like him.
But he is mine and I will fucking kill you.
I was a second-class person in our house. I got the margarine and her kids, the white ones, got the butter. She must have seen my dad every time she looked at me with some hatred for a long time. You know you've had a bad upbringing when you pee the bed constant.
Once some woman said to me, you're taking our men off us.
People thought that women like our mums were just good time girls. They thought that a white woman with a black man was a prostitute. End of. When we moved into the council estate, the neighbours put up a petition. They didn't want the black family moving in.
The first house we moved to had snails and shit like that. Even then, my mum got a lot of shit. My dad did too. To keep warm, we'd put coats on the beds, twist up the newspaper to make the fire last longer. If we all went to bed on a Sunday because the lights went off, we all went. Mum and dad too. Our family was a unit.
There's always been a unity between the Africans and the Irish. Like, I remember when I was little, someone said, "Can I touch your hair?" And my granddad said, "No, you fucking can't."
I remember it like it was yesterday, when my mom walked out of work and got everyone to leave with her because they called Cotton Nigger Brown. That woman scrubbed floors so we had everything and anything we needed. She had a raging Irish temper. She wouldn't put your windows in if you ever did anything to me.
Colour was never a big thing in our family. My mum always said there's 2 types of people, the good and the bad. So I should just be myself because colour's just colour.
When my children were little, they brought out those ethnic monitoring forms. Well, I wouldn't fill them in because I thought something horrible would happen. You know, like with the Jews. One day they'd take my children away because they were mixed raced. So I just always refused to fill that stuff in. Just wanted to protect my children.
Mum, what am I supposed to put on this form? It says blah de blah de blah.
Well, what do you think you should put on?
I don't know.
Just put whatever you want, who cares?
If it's the one for college, just put down that you're black, you'll get in. What are you looking at? You all play the system when you need the money.
Our mothers were regarded as shit because they were our mothers.
White women, especially if single with white kids, can easily be absorbed in society. But dark-skinned children would hamper their survival. I think that's a dilemma some of our mothers faced. It was all about survival. That's why so many stuck together, protecting each other, making the best out of each other's tragedies.
We didn't have a lot. We had fuck all. We didn't have a childminder. We had a shepherd. My mum was the backbone of the house. She's the one who taught me impeccable manners, how to be confident, even to what cutlery to use. If it had been left to my dad, we'd been using our fingers. I had a great relationship with my mum. It's wild. She's the one who would give us a crack. My dad used to say, "My hands are too big to hit them." I always remember having a really happy childhood. I had 2 hard-working parents who grafted.
Once I bought the house, that was the beginning of the end of the marriage. The divorce was really, really difficult. The judge awarded me £2.50 per child per week. I was gaslighted. I was double and triple gaslighted, and I didn't even know I was being gaslighted. It was a mixed up black bag in the white man's world. One of us was going to end up dead, and I had no intentions of it being me.
His own doctor came in the next day, and I said he's dead. No, I didn't have a wake. Everybody loved him. God, even the dog was moping. My kids were distraught when he died, and I will never forget it. Never. This beautiful, beautiful smile came on his face, like someone had come to meet him.
I wasn't even with him when he died. I knew he was dying. He knew he was dying.
I didn't get married again, but I did find love.
Mom always said Dad was dead. I mourned him secretly on my own. Truth was, he died 2 weeks before I found him. I have a picture he kept in his wallet for 40 years. My mom always said, "Can't wait to be with your dad in heaven." I used to think, what the fuck for? Dad, I'm sure, was a bit of a jackanori, but Mom loved him. That's just how it was. My mom loved my dad, and my dad loved my mom. We grew up in the 50s, just after the war, really. So things were just the way they were. My parents were married for 68 years.
My ma looked like an angel. Beautiful, blonde, slim, medium height, heart of gold. 11 kids. I used to love being cuddled by my ma. She was beautiful, you know, in spirit and physically. Hers was the first real death of the family. It was the first time we ever saw my father cry. He loved my mum. She was the linchpin of the family. When my dad died, we went over to the wardrobe, and all my mum's clothes were still there.
She looked into my soul and looked away. That was the last time I saw her. She died that day. My mum never racially abused any of us. I felt really loved. Felt really looked after.
I went over and sat on the bed. And as I held her, I knew. Then she was gone. As I lied there and held her in my arms, I said, "I'm going to make you proud." And it's been like that from that day onwards.
When I stopped the drugs, she was the proudest mother She went into a coma and died that night. If Mum was still here, I'd say, I always loved you. In fact, I adored you.
Who do I look like? Both of them? Both of them. I'm mixed. My mum's Scottish and my dad's Nigerian. I'm African. I look more like my mum, but with a straight nose. We're always well fed, and my mum was spotless. Absolutely spotless. I'm mixed. I've got black in me and white. My life was a bit like living in two different worlds. We'd have the black family and the white family, and on Sunday we had a Sunday roast followed by tinned fruit pineapple cubes. I always remember that on the weekend my dad would come down in his beautiful African clothes. My mum always said, "Doesn't he look good?" You know, they took part in this BBC programme about mixed marriages. I lived in a very black family. And I got my boobs from my mum.
Definitely we had the best of both worlds. We had the English food, we had the African food. We had the African upbringing, we had the English upbringing. Together, they were just rock solid. Am I allowed to say I'm a half caste? Or should I say mixed race? I am a half caste. Hardworking, 61, family man. I definitely was half caste because everybody said half caste. So half caste, half caste, half caste, you know? One day, I got arrested. They took me to the station and said,
Name, religion.
I said half caste. The Longside police station screeched to a halt. I don't know why they said.
Half caste isn't a religion.
I said it's mine. And then for a little while, I was Afro-European. I thought that was amazing.
I am mixed. Black, white, Irish, which at one time were all discriminated against. I remember seeing a sign and it said,
No Irish, no dogs, no blacks.
on the same sign. I never had any disagreements with my mum. She always taught us to know our African heritage.
I tried to bring them up to be well-adjusted people.
I've got black in me and white in me. Mixed race. Ah.
I say to my kids, without your dad, you wouldn't be here. So somewhere along the line, after all the shit that we went through, had to be worth it. And most importantly, I knew that he loved his kids. He simply loved his kids.
I knew one fella whose mum threw a blanket over his head every time she took him out. If Mum was still here, I'd say, let me take you on holiday, Mum. She always said we were the best thing in life.
I loved him. We had our arguments, but we lasted 50 years.
Do I regret my marriage? Do I, bugger? I've got two beautiful children out of it.
I have no regrets about marrying. We've celebrated 52 years of marriage. The truth is, we lived in an era where it was hard for women. Very hard. Everything you did was watched, and everybody had something to say if you wandered off from what was considered good and acceptable.
Bloody true that. You only had to be missing for 30 minutes and the neighbours would say,
She's run off with a black man!
and we did.